закрытый микрофон с регулятором, и позвольте мне представить участников, которые согласились отвечать в первую очередь на ваши вопросы. Это Андрей Свинцов, Государственная Дума, ЛДПР. Это Виталий Сергеевич Лютиков, замдиректора в СТЭК. И Владимир Бенген, директор департамента кибербезопасности Минцифры. И, как я озвучил, пока коллеги были в переговорке, у нас полная демократия, ну, насколько это возможно, поэтому вы задаете вопросы, и, как я уже сказал, не просто вопросы и не просто критику,
do not just ask questions or criticize, but please offer something. Yes, we can criticize, but how about offering something? Offering something to give it to the regulator and to make your lives safer and more interesting. I think this is the whole point. I would like to apologize up front. If you guys are watching online, you won't be able to ask your questions, unfortunately. So, okay, lift up your hands if you would like to answer the question, and we will give you a mic. You will not be recorded. I guess it does not make any sense to introduce yourselves. You're fine, right?
Добрый день.
Hi there.
У меня такой вопрос готовится. У нас
This is my question.
по доверенным пакам.
We have certain regulations for the trusted PACs by 2026. We are quite a big company, and we would have to stop our plans and very fast sort of to switch to this situation. Would that be possible to move the timeline down to right to 2027, 2030?
Да, всем добрый день. Отвечаем. Нет. Простите, пожалуйста.
The answer is no.
К сожалению, мы заметили тенденцию,
Unfortunately,
что она очень часто, может быть, не у вас, у многих других,
it's a trend that maybe not you, your company,
регуляторные требования после того, как уже
they
случилась
begin to fulfill like a regulatory requirements if they had a violation and they got the notice of violation. I don't know how to change it. And how can we work strategically so that like we've been pursuing this for the 10 years. Many big companies and the governmental agencies, they begin to do something when things sort of like too late behind. And this is why to move the schedule to the right, probably this will not be right, and we do have some like January 1st of 2025 regulations, so we should not postpone it further into the future. Yeah, we feel it. Like a cybersec is not enough, and as a part of the import substitutions, we have the deputy ministers, and the deputy ministers are listening to different ideas. Can we build our internal plans? And we're feeling this. And we will accommodate you at some point, but we cannot do it. We cannot do it because, like, okay, we're gonna move it 10 years into the future, and what's gonna come out of it? Thinking about isolation, let's remember some kind of big incident, or let's remember some NPP, nuclear power plant, somewhere in Iran. Yes, it was isolated. However, this cannot be a justification of what has happened. Vitaly, let me build on that, speaking about not this kind of a PAC or hardware-software appliance. Now, many companies, they continue to use on foreign solutions. And they are getting like updates of these hardware and software units, and like what is your attitude when you do supervision, when you do inspections? When you consider this kind of practices, and are you going to be motivating these kind of companies to move to Russian protection devices like in administrative way and stuff. Well, like you said, we do the supervision. And supervision, how do we motivate? Fines. Right, fines. Yes, we will be motivating companies to switch to the Russian solutions, software solutions. But again, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that our technological sovereignties in technological safety, we have achieved it, almost achieved it, with exception of one or two classes of products, I mean the heavy products. First of all, this would be the firewalls. And I'm hoping that all the efforts that developers are making right now to build these kind of solutions, and the Ministry of Digital Development is supporting them. So hopefully they will achieve it, yes. Like 600 gigabit per second with some manufacturers, that's a problem. That's a problem to achieve this kind of outcome. But anyway, we do have some improvements. So we believe that in terms of the InfoSec hardware and software, we have quite optimistic outlook. As for the other means, I think both for services and technologies, for some of them, we are even ahead of some other countries. Thank you, Andrei. The question is for you. Oftentimes, our legislation is like, okay, we do have requirements and we have some kind of punishment or fine. Why, while developing new bills and new legislation, why don't you guys use you have the carrot and stick principle? Why don't you give them more carrots, not to punish them for not complying, but if the companies are saying, hey, that's too short of a notice to switch to the Russian software, there'll be some kind of fine. No, why don't you give them some kind of stimuli, give them some more benefits, give them something else in this transition period, and maybe a company will have motivation to be more agile to move to the Russian trusted tech. Yes, I'm full with you on that. I'm also the deputy head of the special committee on the information policies. That's why this is something I'm in charge of. Also, my political party, LDP, is also supportive of that. And I want to say that I am open to these kind of proposals, and our committee is doing that quite fast. But again, the forms of the support, whenever we have the sessions, these forms could be different. Maybe today they are not applicable to procuring software because kind of subsidies and tax breaks and benefits, for incomes, for the companies' incomes and stuff like that. But it's not difficult to add one line, to add an amendment to an existing piece of legislation. So I fully support it because yes, money are limited, except of the Federal Reserve Service, and it's difficult to get a certain amount of money and to pay for some kind of upgrade to substitute good things with better things. So motivation, financial motivation in our case, is the correct one. I second that. And if among those who are here with us, we have professionals who can clearly formulate what do you want and explain why you want it. Because any bill, it is not just a bill, but also some kind of explanation. So if you can formulate it, I am open 24/7. You can write me to my official email in my state parliament is going to come to me. So hey, we want in this kind of legislation or this kind of regulation, could you please introduce this kind of item, and this item will help us to do this or that? Yeah, I mean, fine. With this kind of digital development ministry, we can update this bill, because sometimes we have certain benefits, and money have been allotted for that, but they are not being disbursed, and companies did not get this money because, Yes, it's a formula, it's a help, but the companies are not getting the actual money. Let's correct it to replace software, to upgrade software. We can do that. Okay, fine. My name is Oleg from the bank Zenith Tatneft group of companies. I think I have quite a challenging question, and I also want to speak about the whole critical line business. You know that there is a regulation in Russia that all the elements of critical infrastructure, they have to switch to the Russian software, Russian appliances, software and hardware. Anyway, we have a problem. If the software hardware manufacturer is not in the list of the Russian software hardware maker, then the prices for this Russian equipment will be 4 or 5 times less than the prices of those who are part of this kind of government registry. If you get two proposals, commercial proposals, then Russian equipment from the company which is in the registry, costs so much, and if the company is not in this registry, it's so much more expensive. Are you planning, as a regulator, are you planning to be on top of it and dive into that? Because the cost is like insane sometimes. Thank you.
Очень профильные вопросы.
Yeah, these are great questions. You're looking at me? Yeah. Who's in charge of the registry? It's Ministry of Industry and Trade is in charge of this company registry. Here is my answer about this kind of software and hardware appliances or complexes. We do have 3 different registries. We have the registry of the trusted hardware, and we have the registry of the PACs or the software and hardware appliances. What do we do on our part? We do not want to regulate or to impose certain tariffs in the cybersec industry and try to regulate market transactions. However, we have a concern about the increased prices, especially when the increase is like super great. We did get this type of complaints in our ministry. I'm not kind of revealing the secret. We had a meeting with the big players, and we thought about some kind of memorandum to impose controls on not to allow arbitrary price growth. We've done some homework, and as for me, I have my personal black list of vendors who have hiked their prices. Yes, I have this list. And if you guys are vendors, you are in this list, and the time will come, we will hold you accountable. You guys gonna have like a 4th registry in your ministry. Yeah. We do hope that the industry is going to be consolidated and sign this kind of memorandum with some price and rules and procedure will be more manageable. Again, competition is always better. As soon as we get 2, 4, 3 players, they will be able to regulate this or compensate for this growth through the market supply and demand. Yes, I would like to defend the industry. We have the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service in Russia. And if you can see, similar prices, and the prices like doubled or tripled, quadrupled. Write me, I'll make an inquiry, and maybe in a soft way, without even fines, but I'll try to nudge this company to kind of, regulate or mark down their prices, because we know that, gotta be supported by the experts, because even the software product, sometimes you cannot justify why the product costs so much, especially in today's realities. We are not going to push hard on those companies. Neither do we want to have them to have a license to do. And it is not going to be just a hot air and I believe that they would not want to raise the budget too high. We're all in the same boat, and we want to have as many companies as we can on the Russian market, and also not to kill whatever few companies that are left on the market. So send us your application if you think that for whatever reason you cannot write an official document offering your complaints. You can do an anonymous, like I can analyze that, and I can go to the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service.
So I can go to the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service and get it myself if needed. So just inform us, and we will cool the market. Thank you.
Positive Technologies.
К Алексею не надо,
Positive
я
Technologies.
регулятор, я не регулятор.
Positive Technologies, наверное, больше. Соберзян,
Нет, к позитиву не надо вопросов.
Тоже не надо.
Точно, абсолютно.
So no questions to Positive Technologies. Positive Technologies is not regulator yet. So
Я понимаю, G-Firewall тоже
I
не
just
надо,
wanted to
я
ask about
к
firewall
позитиву
and
очень
G-Firewall.
У нас
It's not for
все
positive.
Как же демократия?
So about democracy. Well, democracy, yes, but I'm a moderator,
пользуюсь правом вето,
and I use my veto right.
G-Firewall, Виталий Сергеевич, задам вам.
And the firewall question,
Поскольку я
I'll
знаю,
ask you,
что
because I
STEC
know
недавно выпустила приказ
that STEC
требований к
recently
Next Generation
issued
Firewall,
an order
и
with
Владимир,
requirements
вопрос
for
там к вам
firewalls.
тоже в
And
продолжение,
Vladimir,
потому что
many questions
неоднократно
to
звучало,
you.
что на российском рынке
As many times
Next
you
Generation
said that in
Firewall
Russian
нет
market there is no
после
generation
ухода
firewall
иностранных игроков.
after
При
the
этом
foreign
все
players
отечественные
left
производители
the
фаерволов
market.
говорят, что ну вот
And
как
all
же
the
так, мы же вот
domestic
здесь.
producers
Вот какова
of firewalls
позиция
said
в
that
STEC и
what's going on? We're
Минцифры
here.
с точки
What is
зрения
the
Next Generation
position of
Firewall?
STEC and the Ministry of Digitalization?
Ну, что касается требований, да, они вместе с экспертным
So
сообществом
requirements,
выработаны, и
of
сейчас
course,
они там
together
юридические
with the
процедуры
industry, we develop them,
проходят, там
and now it goes through different legal procedures.
ну, имеется в виду Министерство
So we
юстиции.
get
Поэтому, ну, в
all the
любом случае,
comments
процесс,
from the
он до
Ministry of
конца
Justice.
дойдет,
So
и
this process
требования
will
вступят
get
в
to its
действие.
logical
Значит,
end,
что
and the
касается
requirements will be introduced,
НЖФВ, но
enacted.
у нас
So
есть компании, которые как бы пытаются
we
назвать
have
себя,
companies
что они
that
вот
they're
как бы
trying to call
производят
themselves
или там
that
разрабатывают НЖФВ.
that
Но
they
на самом деле это же
produce
такой
NG4 walls.
собирательный, нет, то есть нет какого-то
But
стандарта, то есть который
there is
говорит,
no
что это НЖФВ,
standard.
а это не НЖФ. Есть определенные свойства, которые мы
And the
заложили в
firewall
требования.
is not. So there are certain
Поэтому
qualities,
я
certain
считаю,
properties
что
that
те
this
компании,
firewall should
которые
have.
не
That's
будут
why I think that the
соответствовать этим
companies
требованиям, они не
that will
смогут
not meet
заявиться
the
о том, что
requirements,
они
they
разрабатывают или
can't
производят
say that
НЖФВ.
they develop
Единственное, как бы нюанс,
NG
конечно,
firewalls.
а там набор требований функциональных, ну, заложен
The
широкий.
number of
Вот
properties and
здесь
functions
мы
is quite
поработали
broad.
и с зарубежными, как бы,
We work together
изделиями, и
with
с российскими разработчиками.
foreign
Вот.
producers and Russian
Единственный
producers.
момент, который у нас пока
Just one
остался
point that is
висеть в
still
воздухе, это
uncovered.
его такие характеристики, ну, пропускная способность, задержка
This is the characteristics
обработки
of
пакетов. То есть
the
там, где мы
firewall, is
очень
throughput of it
категорично
and
завязаны на аппаратную
delays
как бы
of
платформу.
processing packs,
Поэтому, несмотря на то, что я
packages.
был категорическим сторонником прописать
Despite the fact that
конкретные
I
цифры по
was
пропускоспособности и времени задержки, все-таки коллеги пока
supporting
убедили,
the
и мы
idea
установили
to
какие-то нижние границы.
write down
Дальше мы,
the
наверное,
throughput
сделаем таким
capacity
образом. Мы
and
посмотрим
the number of
год-полтора,
packages
как
and
будет
delays of
развиваться
packages.
по функциональности.
So we
Ну, а
just need to
потом
see how the
дополним эти
functionality it will be
требования
developing,
уже
and then we'll add
конкретными гигабитами
these
в
requirements
секунду и
with the
миллисекундами.
numbers,
Вот.
gigabits and
Поэтому
gigabytes and
потом там же есть
so
еще,
on and so
извините,
forth.
как бы время займу, проблема — это
There
проверки
is
этого
also a
всего.
problem.
Ну, то есть
This is
тестирование
how
этого
to
всего.
test all of
Это
it.
должны быть, ну, методики-то разработать надо,
We
оборудование
need to develop methodology
дорогостоящее
how to do
для,
this, and the equipment
значит,
is
нагрузочного
very
тестирования
expensive.
такого класса оборудования. У нас
And
оно там
to
у
test
там 3-5
this
организаций в
equipment,
полном объеме
only
есть.
3-5
Поэтому
organizations
здесь
have this
нужно еще
equipment to
одну проблему
test
будет решить. Это
this
создание
technology.
таких,
So
наверное,
we'll have to
лабораторий,
resolve
которые
this
будут
other
либо
issue
независимо,
to
либо
create these
зависимо
labs that will be
обеспечивать
dependent or
соответствующее тестирование.
independent.
Но
and we need to ensure this testing. One year ago, we didn't even think about it, and now we're discussing where we're going to test it. And the question that you asked, what we think about using the foreign-produced firewalls, especially for critical information infrastructure, it's not that critical, really. So we shouldn't be using so-called vulnerable firewalls. So that would be a problem. What we need to do, we need to focus on analyzing vulnerabilities on different class of products, and they're quite critical. Then we need to come up with compensating measures, developing signatures, analyzing events to compensate those risks. So this is more critical, at least till 2025.
Ну, я уточню, при проверке, когда все-таки приходит с проверкой на объекты,
and when the tech company comes to another company to do the audit, so you need to have certain requirements for that, right? Yes, when we do our audit, we'll look at the requirements, see what they have at the company.
Уже опять проходит эту экспертизу в Минюсте приказ, где мы обязательства по гарантийной технической поддержке.
Order that is now in the Ministry of Justice. So we understand what the situation is, and the hardware is not going to be checked as it used to be, according to that order. So we look at the whole thing in the context of vulnerability. So if there is no technical support and the lack of technical support entails vulnerabilities, then we'll look at what's going on, and we introduce sanctions. But if they're going to fix the vulnerability, so we don't introduce sanctions. So is the question to Vitaly? Actually, the question was answered, but I would like to sum it up. Do you understand correctly that everything that the humanity worked on for 40 years, so we call all of this import. So there is no any import, Chinese import, so we're just using our in Belarus import. So for the next 1 year and a half, we'll do everything that was done 40 years before that. So are you sure just that we'll be successful? Well, success or not success?
Значит, самым старшим начальником поставлено, поэтому мы должны все меры к этому предпринять.
Я просто need to take all necessary measures to do that. So we're not saying anything. So you emotionally saying it's foreign, not foreign producers, and trusted or not trusted. So we have requirements. See, it's not the stacked paradigm to call something domestic or non-domestic. So we have Minister of Digitalization and Minister of Trade, and they have their requirements, and we have our requirements, and our requirement is trust, how trusted the software is. And back to your question, there is no any friendly foreign country past the trust requirements that we set for different class of products. Call them friendly or non-friendly. Let others call them like this. Those whom you're hinting at. So they several times tried to go through the process, I mean the designers of it, but as soon as they realize the depth of the program code that should be studied, so they kind of rolled back and they didn't want to do that. So no matter how you call them, foreign, domestic, friendly, non-friendly, that's not in our area. From the point of view of security, there are different regulators that they may call them whatever adjective they need to.
Есть Наверное, речь про два основных указа президента, которые вышли в прошлом
Now
году,
probably you're talking about
166
two
и
main decrees
250,
of the
в
president,
рамках которого в 166 на объектах Киев
166
нужно
and
импортозаместить средства
250.
информатизации,
This
включая
import
ИВ, IT, все. А в рамках
substitution
250-го речь касается только
and
про средства
decree
информационной безопасности,
250 that
но
talks only
тотально
about the
везде,
means
в целом.
of
Ну, то есть здесь мало кто сможет
information
поднять
security,
руку и
but it's
скажет,
totally
что а
everywhere.
вот меня
So
250 не касается. Там
I don't
такие
think there are people in the
формулировки
audience who can
в
say that
пункте, что в
decree
целом это касается
2050
всех.
does not
Но только недружественных стран.
touch
Это,
you.
кстати, там вот важно.
But
Реестр
what is
недружественных
actually
стран
indicated
отдельно
then, there is a
ведется профильным
registry of
ведомством. Теперь
non-friendly
отвечаем
countries is there.
последовательно на
So
вопрос, начиная с
now,
НГФВ.
answering
Мы
your
здесь,
question.
ну, то есть, во-первых, благодарны и рады, что в стек
Well,
ведет
first of
работа
all, we are
по и
grateful to
полностью
Stack
поддерживаем
that
историю по
you
нормализации
work
термина
on
НГФВ, требований к НГФВ, и чтобы это был
normalizing
отдельным класс решений.
terms and GFV and
У нас кибербез
the registry.
очень
So
высоко
our cyber
импортозамещен, и он очень высокого
security
класса. Это, по
is
крайней мере,
very
такое
much
внутреннее убеждение в
import
принципе есть.
substituted. So this
То
is
есть мы
what we have
раскладываем
in
весь
Ministry of
кибербез на
Digitalization. So we look
отрасли, на
at all
сегменты,
the
и видим, что
cybersecurity, we'll
практически по
look at
каждому
each
классу
segment, and we
продуктов
can see that at
есть
every class
очень
of product,
неплохие,
there are
соответственно, российские
pretty
продукты,
good
выстроенные
Russian
рынки, и в целом все
products
неплохо. По сравнению с
and
другими
pretty good
IT-отраслями у нас
markets,
в
and it's
кибербезе
not
все
bad.
очень
So
хорошо.
comparing
И
with
здесь, наверное,
other
опять же, заслуга
industries and
регуляторов,
cybersecurity,
которые
it's pretty good. And here
последовательно
probably
выставляли те или иные
this
требования,
is to
которые
the
могли
merit of our
выполнить
regulator
только
that
российские компании, и, соответственно, вот он
persistently
сформировался такой рынок.
introduced requirements,
Да,
and these
это не
requirements helped
касается
us to build this type
НГФВ.
of market. Of
И
course, it
здесь
doesn't have to do
простой вопрос. У нас
with
действительно, я каждый раз это рассказываю, к нам приходят
NGFV.
вендора, говорят, у нас НГФВ уже 10 лет,
They say
российские
that the
вендора
vendors say,
приходят и рассказывают.
Russian
Не
vendors
один,
say that
и не два,
NGFV,
даже больше 5.
that
И
more than 5
точно
of
так же
them come to
приходят
us and say that,
заказчики, приходят крупные
and
организации и говорят, нет
big
российского
organizations
решения
come to
НГФВ.
us.
Что значит
There is
нет?
no
Это
Russian
значит, что
solutions
им
for
она
that.
не удовлетворяет. Вот мы со
So it
своей
doesn't mean
стороны видим четкую
it
задачу
doesn't
так
exist.
или
So
иначе
we
синхронизировать эти две
it just
страны,
doesn't
сделать так, чтобы
meet their requirements.
в России появился продукт, и появилось несколько продуктов в сегменте НГФВ, которые будут
And
удовлетворяли
there are several
большему
products in this
числу
segment
заказчиков. Мы понимаем, что
that
заказчикам
could
придется пойти на
satisfy
уступки. Да, сделать полную замену
our
того, что нарабатывалось 50 лет до этого.
clients.
Ну, мы
Yes,
все
of course, we need to
прекрасно
come up
понимаем, что, скорее
with
всего, не справится.
substitution
Может,
for what was
справится, но,
developed
скорее всего,
for
не
the last
справится.
50
И здесь
years.
придется чем-то пожертвовать. Где-то придется
And they
пожертвовать
probably
объемом
not going to make it, and somewhere we will have
времени,
to
затрачиваемым на обслуживание. То есть придется взять больше персонал на обслуживание средств.
find
Возможно.
more
Но если у нас в
personnel
целом уровень
to
информационной безопасности
support
вырастет, ну,
NG
значит, такой
firewalls.
путь. Соответственно, мы ведем эти разговоры, мы
So we talk about
синхронизируем стороны, мы, те, что разрабатывают НГФВ, знают, что они от нас получают
Those who
постоянно
develop
достаточно странные письма. Мы высылаем им
NGFW,
анкеты,
so
формы по
they get
тестированию,
the
просим их самих ответить
applications,
на
testing forms,
длинные, соответственно, технологические карты. То есть мы берем
different technological
большой
maps,
набор
and
требований от заказчика на 300 пунктов и начинаем общаться
we
с
get the
вендорами,
requirements
что они
of
могут,
the
что не
client,
могут,
like
и где
300
видят смысл,
points
что
to
это нужно
cover.
или не
We
нужно
talk to
делать.
vendors
Если мы
and
это
ask
сможем
them
все
what
вместе
should be done, what should be
синхронизировать,
not,
то,
what's too
возможно,
much,
и
what's
этот
not too
последний
much. So if
сегмент
we
мы
can
сможем
synchronize all
заместить.
this,
Здесь
probably
в
this is the
целом-то
last segment
мы не
that
видим
can be
прям
substituted.
краеугольной проблемы. Да, то есть
We don't
это,
see that this
кажется,
is
мы
a
должны
cornerstone
справиться.
problem. I think
Спасибо.
we'll manage it.
Да, вот.
Да,
Yes.
возвращаясь немножко к вопросам
Back
Верховной
to
Собранной
the
страны. Сейчас в Госдуме,
other
насколько
question.
известно,
Now in the
есть
State Duma,
законодательные
in the Russian
инициативы
Parliament,
по усилению штрафов за
they initiate
нарушение порядка
to
оборота персональных
raise
данных и вообще порядка
fines
обеспечения
for using
безопасности
personal
персональных
data
данных.
and to ensure security
Будет
of
ли
personal data.
какое-то, ну, не знаю, форсирование этого законопроекта, потому что то, что
Do you
сейчас
think
происходит
that
с
this
персональными данными, то
draft law
безумное
will
количество
be
утечек и то, что
enacted?
компании не
Because what happens
несут
now, there's a lot of
адекватной
leakages of
ответственности
personal
за
data, and the
тот
companies are not
большой объем
properly
утечек
responsible and
данных,
not personally
в текущей
properly
глобальной
liable
геополитической
for
ситуации
this.
это как
And the
бы
current
вообще
political
вопрос национальной
situation,
безопасности,
I
когда
think
такое
it's a matter
большое
of
количество
national security when
персональных данных граждан находится в открытом
so
доступе.
much
То
personal
есть будет ли
data is
как-то
in the
сейчас
open
форсироваться этот законопроект?
access.
И второй вопрос, как
Are you going to
вы
kind of
предлагаете?
force this
Отдельно
draft law?
есть,
And the second
на мой
question
взгляд,
is,
определенная, как специалиста отрасли
I
по информационной безопасности,
think
определенная проблема, и она
there
в
is certain
будущем будет
issue
только нарастать,
for
это
the
оборот
information
биометрических
security
персональных данных. То есть На мой взгляд,
matter.
нужно как-то его тоже очень
So
достаточно
this is
жестко регламентировать, потому что
how the personal
даже
data
то,
is
что
growing
происходит сейчас, когда,
geometrically.
извините,
So
каждый
even what's
банк, чтобы
happening now, that
разблокировать счет,
every
просит
bank, in
отправить на
order
почту
to
фотографию с паспорта, там у вас есть
unblock
разъяснение в КМ, что
the
это
account,
как бы
they ask to
и
send
банки собирают это
the
все в обход, да
picture
простят меня банки,
from the
но
passport
присутствующие здесь,
and
но
the
они
first page
собирают
of the
это все
passport.
в обход
So
единой биометрической
banks,
системы,
they
и то
collect all
есть
this
это образом,
information,
я договорились
avoiding
передать.
the
Спасибо.
biometric system. So then I think
Да, на
it's a
первой
ticking bomb.
секции Максут Шадаев тоже говорил об этом, и
At the first session, Maksud Sadaev was talking about this, and the expert did that
где-то
too.
сошлись, а где-то чуть-чуть разошлись, но недалеко
And
во
they
мнении, что
agreed and
практически
disagreed.
невозможно
But what they
гарантированно
say is practically
что-то
almost
защитить. Все равно
impossible
есть
to
в большей
protect
степени фактор
everything
внутренней
100%,
утечки. Кто-то
because there is a
умышленно это
factor
сделал,
of
украл,
internal
разместил,
leakage.
продал,
Somebody did it on purpose.
кто-то по
They
неосторожности. То есть
leaked the
сегодня та
information.
ситуация с персональными данными,
Somebody did it
когда их собирают абсолютно все, просто все,
randomly.
там, чат-боты какие-то,
Everybody
всё, что
collects
угодно, везде все это
personal data,
валится, и все это,
chatbots,
естественно, утекает.
it's all over the
Она,
place. And of course,
наверное,
it's
никаким
leaked.
федеральным законом, даже
I don't
если
think that any
сейчас
federal
уже
law
закон
can actually
о
regulate it. And if even the law,
привязан штраф к выручке, да, даже если это будет
the law
200%
is
от
linked
годовой выручки, она проблем
to
не решит, потому
the
что
revenue of the
компании
company, if
будут
it's going to be
умирать, если
200%
будут
of the
им такие штрафы
revenue, because the company
выписывать, а
will
это
die
скоро
if
начнется.
they're going to find the company
Но
like
эта
that. And
проблема
it's
не
going to
решит.
start
Поэтому я думаю, что в
soon like
ближайшее
that.
время,
And I don't think it's
наверное,
going
мы
to
все-таки
resolve the
перейдем к
problem. And I
какому-то
think in the near
другому вообще
future,
подходу. То есть
we
будет,
will have to come up
наверное,
with a
один в
different
перспективе
solution for that.
государственный
I
регулятор,
think there will be
и будет
one
подход к
state
формированию
regulator,
через какие-то вот,
and
условно
they
говоря,
public regulator, and they
индивидуальные коды,
will
которые будут генерироваться для конкретной
have some
одной
individual
операции.
codes
И
that
это
will
будет
be
просто другой
generated for
подход.
one
Сейчас мы
particular
это все вот обсуждаем,
transaction.
ну,
It's
кто
going to be just
где, да,
individual
и в
approach,
государственном
and we
уровне, я
discussed it
уверен,
all over
там
the
и в
place
Минцифре,
in
и
the
тем
State
более
Duma, in the
регуляторы.
Ministry of
То есть вообще как
Digitalization,
подойти к этому
and the
вопросу.
regulator. We're just talking
Я
about
думаю, что это
how to
просто будет другая форма. А
approach
то, что сейчас
this issue. I
штрафы
think it's going to be a
кратные,
different form, and
выручки, да, это уже, так
clearly
сказать,
that the
реальность. Надеюсь,
fines
ну
are
вот я лично
equal
голосовал против,
to the
потому что
revenue
я
of the
считаю,
company.
что
And I
в
was actually
условиях
voting
сегодняшних
against that
реалий,
because I
если
think
будут
under the current
там
conditions,
несколько там
in
десятков,
today's
сотен
reality,
таких
I think
штрафов вынесено, мы можем просто
if
терять
they
отрасли там, да, такие, как,
issue
которые
those
сегодня
fines, like
развиваются
10, 20 fines like
очень
that,
быстро, потому
and
что
some
выручка там
industries
какой-нибудь
can be just
Валберес или еще
strangled like
кого-то, она
this.
просто огромная. И если их там будут штрафовать системно, то,
If
наверное,
these
мы просто
companies
потеряем
will
целые
be
отрасли.
fined like that,
Поэтому
so the
очень
whole
сложный
industry
подход
could
к
be
этому.
lost.
И, конечно, понятно,
So
что в
that's
законе
why an
прописано,
approach
что
to this is very
все-таки должен быть
complex.
доказан ущерб и так далее.
And
Но
in the law, it's
я
stated that
23
the
года в
damage should
Государственной
be
Думе,
proven.
11 лет
I'm in
помощником и
State
уже
Duma
12 год
23
депутатом, я знаю,
years
как
and
работает
12 years as a
правоохранительная
deputy,
система. Павел,
and I
что
know
подход?
how
Не
the
важно,
law
там, вот мы
enforcement
сейчас тебе
agency
штрафанем на
works.
миллиард, иди потом в суд
So
доказывай. За это время тебе
they just
арестовали
find you
счета, компания
first,
твоя рухнула,
and
и потом
then you
через
can
полтора
try
года
to
ты
prove
доказал,
whatever you
что
want in the court, and
ущерб был 1000 рублей, и штраф не от
and
выручки там в
you
миллиард,
already
а от выручки
fined,
конкретно вот этого магазина, отдельного
but you
отделения, там,
can't really do anything
500
because you're
500
already
тысяч, а не
bankrupt.
миллиард, да? Ну, уже бизнеса-то нет, все.
So, but
Вот
business is
поэтому я к
gone,
этому
right?
очень аккуратно
So no
отношусь
matter
и
what is the
всячески пытаюсь
truth.
этот процесс
So that's why
притормозить. Но
I'm quite
понимаю
cautious
регулятора,
about this, and
которому
I'm
нужно
trying to
совершенно
slow down this
другое, ему
process.
нужно,
But I
чтобы
do
этих личек
understand
не
that the
было.
regulator needs
Вот
something
я лично
different,
голосовал против,
and they don't want this
как бы
leakage, and they want to
ситуация
stop
выглядит
that.
такая,
So
как
I
она
actually
сейчас есть.
voted against this law,
Спасибо.
but
Я,
the
кстати,
situation
хочу
is
минутку
what it is.
рекламы. У нас сегодня будет секция
A minute of
«Утекло
commercial
и с
today.
ним», на котором
We will have a
компании, которые
session today
пострадали или
that
столкнулись с
is
инцидентами, в
called
том числе с
the
утечками, будут делиться
data
своим
leakage.
опытом, как они из этой
To
ситуации
hell with it.
вышли, как
And we'll
они
talk to the companies how
технически
they
боролись с этим, как
found
они с
their
точки
way
зрения
out
пиара
of it
боролись с
and
этим.
how
Поэтому
they
кто
fought it
опасается,
from the point of
что
view
с
of
вами это
PR.
произойдет, а
And
мы
so
понимаем,
if some
что
of you
инцидент
are
это
concerned that
в
something
парадигму
similar might happen to you
если это
on this
произойдет, а скорее
incident,
когда это
it's
произойдет,
not
я
in
думаю,
the
для многих это
paradigm as
будет
if it's going to happen. It's more like
интересно.
when it's going to happen.
Есть вопрос? Да.
And if some of you are
Один по
interested in this, so
критической
please come.
информационной инфраструктуре вопрос.
Critical
Допустимо ли в рамках
infrastructure
одного
question.
субъекта иметь как значимые объекты,
Is
так
it
и без
possible
присвоения категории
you,
значимых?
as one entity, there can be significant sites
Очень
and
легкий вопрос.
insignificant sites? Actually, it's a quite
Допустимо.
simple question. Yes, it is permissible. You can have both types of
Спасибо.
entities under you, under your company. Yes.
Давайте пока сейчас передают микрофон. У меня
So
вопрос
while they're passing the mic,
Владимир,
let
Виталий
me
Сергеевич
ask
и Андрей. Я
Vladimir,
думаю, у каждого из вас будет своя точка зрения,
Sergey,
и
and
свой
Vitaly.
взгляд
I'm sure
на
that each of you will have your own point of view
То есть это та тема, о которой сегодня
about bug
говорят достаточно
bounty.
много.
This is a topic that they've been talking about for quite
выставила на баг-баунте, наверное, есть
quite
какие-то
extensively.
первые уже результаты.
And I think there are already first results of what's going on with it. So bug bounty, how do we see it as a mandatory requirement as the means of protection? And Andrei, do you think it will be possible to put it in the law? And so that bug hunters wouldn't be considered as hackers, that they hack organizations, so they wouldn't be criminally liable for that.
У нас было предположение, гипотеза, что если мы проведем баг-баунти, то достаточно за малое количество выделенных средств мы сможем радикально повысить уровень защищенности в много
significantly increase the level of protection in our company, and nothing bad will happen. So that was an assumption, and it took us a while to agree on with other regulators because there are lots of concerns and risks about it. So what if everybody's going to hack us and even some unreliable people, and what if they're going to sell this vulnerability to someone else, they sell it to us and they sell it to somewhere, not to us, something else. So there are lots of concerns. As of today, we think that the first bug bounty is done in the Ministry of Digitalization, and it was great success. We looked at all our system of monitoring. It was like a standard attack. We didn't differentiate them, but technically it wasn't possible anyway. So in a way, we're sure that they wouldn't find vulnerabilities, or they find little ones, because all the big cyber security companies, and if you go through their booths and if they say they have good hackers, then of course they had those hackers who were looking for vulnerabilities in our portal Gosposlugi, public services, and actually found ones. And tomorrow I'll tell you, I think a few dozens of vulnerabilities they found. Some of them were removed, some of them were mitigated. It's quite a complicated procedure, and we have to work with a lot of details, and it was very difficult to come up with the reports. There was thousands of commercial companies, and they filtered this, and they sent to us only a insignificant amount of this. And even in this tons of reports, we were unable to go through all of them. So those searchers come to us and were saying, so you respond too long. The procedure was very complicated and difficult and long, but we are very happy with the outcome. There are many nuances here. When we saw a vulnerability and we were saying, yes, the vulnerability exists, we confirm it, and then we took all our monitoring systems, and historically we were looking at what we had before, were there any events, and we could see the confirmation that the vulnerability wasn't used that. So here's the researcher comes and tells us that there were 2 successful or 3 successful attempts of penetration. Very difficult work, but very useful. So we would like to scale this very positive experience, and then how much you had to pay for that, you will tell us at the tomorrow's session, right? Thank you. Yep, Vitaly?
Мы не против самого этого процесса, его организация.
The process itself, we have nothing against that. An organization of it, yes, but the process is very useful. We will have the procedure of certification for this. We're not. Because I think it's not a process of certification. It's a process of safe development of the system. Should we introduce it for everybody? I don't think so. Maybe it's too early. And such examples, as was just mentioned, so first we need to test it, see how it works. And some of the vendors that work with this, they're working with this for quite a while. And here we had the public agency that was working with this task. So I think we need to have experience for this. We had to get all the trials and errors, and then we should realize what the category would be and for whom this bug bounty test would be used, and in which big company we would use this, and when, and under which conditions. Because the site that they were talking about, so this site was tested by many other companies before, and if we bring immature companies to bug bounty, so A, it'll get a lot of alerts, and B, this company will be unable to do anything with those alerts. So, I'd say that this tool should be used for companies with a high maturity, and not for everybody, and not from scratch. Vitaly, would you bring bug bounty to website stack? Well, in Rusnet, sometimes we have successful hackers. Sometimes our website, compared with the Gosuslugi website, it doesn't carry the social critical function, so to speak, for the population. Unless they put something like this there, that all the certificates are abolished or revoked. For 10,000 rubles, yes, of course, nobody's going to do that, but economic outcome of this is not high. When we talked about the threats during the last session, and the Linux Center protected depository and the core of Linux, if somebody breaks in the repository where the Linux kernel is, so this story, well, see, it's just protected repository of Linux. We don't have that, and of course, if in the future we have it, so we need to think about the protection of it, and of course, yes, of course, it should be done. Here's the issue of organizing access to it. Does everybody need access to it? And the kernel of Linux, not needed for everyone, it's only needed for organizations that develop products based on this, operation systems, and something else. But otherwise, of course, it's possible to do it. Why to test it in the kernel itself? Yes, it's possible. But right now we are building the processes of studying security. We made contracts with some agencies that will help us with this, but I think over time we'll get to this point. From the point of view of kind of widening the reputation of bug hunters and those white hackers and all that, so what are the plans in the State Duma? Yes, I was the author of such proposals, and before actually submitting it to State Duma, or the deputy's consideration, I sent it first to the law enforcement agencies with the request to give us an official response, and I got a negative response. And there are a number of reasons. The first reason is that, of course, in the format that we can see it in the hall near us, we're trying to hack the system. So yes, it's okay when it's format like this. When it's like on the side of the business takes its product, brings it for a limited number of specialists or unlimited number of specialists, but this is their business processes and how they test their software. It's their own matter, and I think it's welcome by everyone. But to make it like a mass phenomena. There are two problems. If it's not a critical software that is installed on some critically important systems, then there's a risk that the programmers will include errors there in order to identify those errors and then to get advantage of this. And so those entities said, so why would we actually incentivize them to find these issues? They can include the issues in the ready-to-go product. So if it will be a mass phenomenon on critically important things, where is the guarantee that it's going to be like a mass hacking? And Quasi, this hacker that helped to find it, so how can be sure that something would be broken if they do so? If we let them do it everywhere, then it's going to be like a tsunami, so everywhere it's going to be broken because of this, and nothing will work. So there is another danger that it may happen, and this is what stops us as the regulators to do that. As an experiment, like in what they do here on this event, and when they do this standoff, and of course we can do it from time to time in the Ministry of Digitalization, we do it, but it shouldn't be a mass thing. You know, let me say this. We need to propose something. So the Ministry of Digitalization, it did work. So and why? Somebody's reputation should be whitened, so to speak, or allow somebody to do something. I'm not a great specialist in law enforcement, but I think when we're trying to regulate certain things and how they coordinate, it's very important that the colleagues who introduce the practice, so they need to do the expertise from the point of view where the bottlenecks are and build the cooperation. So maybe you need some confirmation, approval, or notify somebody about something. For some reason we say, let's allow them or make them, so as if we don't have anything else. So it seems that, as Lev said, so if there was an event, the first stage of it,
в пол не положили его во время его, вот, и будем надеяться, что и дальше не положат, вот, учитывая, что у нас...
Yes, we're hoping things are gonna go this way, like, nothing is forever. So I did not want to say, okay, let's allow everything, and hackers will be part of the legislation, these guys will be white hat, these guys will be black hat. No, that's a very childish approach. That's great. Give me... Yeah, let's see the question. It's a question from Tivitali, from the information security. Like students. Are you a student? Yes, I am. We have a lot of methodology recommendations, like with a limited kind of access. Students would like to get hold of them, and you were saying that within several days will be methodology of organizing InfoSec processes in companies. No, that's cutting down vulnerabilities. Yes, it's an open document. It will be published. We've only one category, limited publication, where there are some issues which are kind of bordering on government secrets. But I do not know what kind of school you are representing. If we provide any specialized kind of secret documents, if it's a very closed document, then I can separately tell you how it is going on, depending on your majors that you are offering. If you need some kind of, closed documents, why? I'm just thinking, okay, the US Defense Ministry, how do they provide for safety and security? It is not like they're gonna tell you, no, Alexei, go ahead and publish, those secret documents. How about the US, United States Ministry of Defense documents? They haven't been published. It's okay. It's okay.
Это соседние, это те, которые помогут, такие люди, мы, понятно.
Those guys sitting next door, what we're trying to say, that hey, we have some open documents, okay? It has been a year that we are not limited to. We're not limited by some kind of obligations. Hey, we are from insurance, medical insurance. For those who are traveling across the board, it's a transborder passing, data passports, medical records. What are the latest changes in Russian legislation in terms of using foreign messengers in people's phones? Because we are like a mediator between the end client and banks and insurance companies. We are having big issues because now almost all communications with those people who are insured outside of Russia, they go through messengers because WhatsApp and Telegram are cheap. And it looks like you cannot do that, right? So we are trying to understand and find a joint solution. We cannot find it like, do we need investments in some kind of IT system, be it local, maybe bigger, on the level of bank or something else?
Я вот тоже хотел удивиться.
You're looking at me. You guys are looking at me, like, oh, why? Why? Look at these guys. I guess it is a question for Andrei. I can tell you anything, I'm sorry. Well, Vladimir, up to you. Yeah, I think we have to have a different perspective. We have to think and say that unfortunately, you are transferring data cross-border. It's a cross-border data transfer and storage of the data outside of Russia. Oh yeah, like you transfer the data and then they do something with the data, which is imposing some requirements. Speaking about the messengers is a new story, and it is a secondary story because we do have a lot of questions coming, like how do we pass on data across the border? I think it's a very specific question. You simply have to send to the Ministry of Digital Development, send us your official inquiry. We give you all the details. And I guess you guys all want to say that we cannot comment, legislation, we cannot give clarifications. I want to say that, yes, legislation is being adopted quite fast, especially lately, because we have a mountain ball, like a snowball of security. And this type of very, very narrow, special aspects, nobody's paying attention to them. And again, to give a clear-cut explanation, how can you do this and what's going to happen, it's difficult, but again, any punishment should be proportional to a violation. If it's a one phone, one passport, okay, like you have some kind of leakage, I do not think that you as an insurance company or whatever company, even if inspection will come over to you and somebody will write that, hey, my copy of my passport is somewhere in Turkey or being used in any other ways, you have to prove it, like one guy, one passport. What's the scale? What's the scope of this kind of leak or damage? We are going to analyze this different kind of isolated cases, and then somehow we will be specifying them in the legislation. And the regulator, Ministry of Digital Development of Russia, will come up to something. I do not think that we have a huge risks posed to Russian business because of this kind of isolated cases. Yeah, I can see you. I give them the mic.
Добрый день, коллеги. Меня зовут Алексей. Представляю
Hello, dear colleagues. My name is Alexei. I'm from the financial sector.
идет внедрение платформы цифрового рубля.
Now we have a digital currency, digital ruble platform implementation. There is limitations. Order 152 about like a cryptographical protection. Sorry, guys. We simply do not have FSB or somebody else there. Yeah, but my question is for Vladimir. Is the Ministry of Digital Development maybe to initiate cancellation of these degrees so that the end users, so I mean the bank clients, will be able to get a mobile app with a built-in, stuff through the Apple Store, Huawei app gallery without, special kind of counting, so that we'll be able to introduce Russian, means, Russian developments. Vladimir, you have to say something about it. Ministry of Digital Development will not be supporting any regulations by the FSB or the Russian Security Service. But we do have a very close joint communication with the service with the FSB since the last year. You've heard about some problems about the TLS certificates and like a national verification center. They have cryptography in addition to the international crypto logarithms. We have the Russian ones, and like each browser has to be like counted in separately, or each vendor which is built in mobile applications. Does it mean that they have to get licensed? All these issues can be and will be discussed in the Federal Security Service of Russia. They do have very well kind of developed list of opinions. It is not like they're against, no, it's going to be this way, like from here to eternity. No, this issue is being looked upon, but I think it will be resolved, like in, for example, TLS traffic. What is being done right now? On the client side, these requirements will be lifted off, but on the server side, this will remain. About using like a crypto protected, kind of like a traffic process. But one way or another, this year we're going to clarify this story. Yeah, we see the problem. We're going to do something about it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. My name is Roman Buturkin from Cloud Networks. I'm a question to Vladimir, to the Ministry of Digital Equipment, about these objects of the critical infrastructure. What do you think about these? Like, do you get any approvals? Do you get any like public hearing, or do you build these elements of critical infrastructure like based on your inspections, based on applications? I don't know. I have some experience of doing audit in the industrial segment of the elements of critical infrastructure, and you look at the company, one company which is industrial, and the second company is also industrial company. Look at the systems which are part of the critical infrastructure. There are some issues, there are some problems. Why do you ask him, with Vitaly? No, I guess he's speaking about the like a typical or standardized things. Our ministry was assigned with this, and as a part of our respective industries, in our case, this would be communication sector, outlined in Law 187. We are doing the standardizations of the critical elements of the infrastructures within the scope of our powers, and we do that through the within industry. We're sending this to the industry players. They're commenting, and then we have ongoing dialogue. Now, how about doing something like that across other segments? Yes, this work is ongoing. If the guys from the Ministry of Digital Development, MDD, will finish up this work and they want to escalated on the level of federal legislation. Yes, we have it. We have it across all industries, and I can say that in 2 industries we have approved it. In transportation, we've approved the list of the critical infrastructure elements. So we continue to do that on our part. We've done it. We've done the registry. We've done all the lists, and we've sent proposals. You've mentioned about the telecom industry. This telecom industry is verifying it, and they're just adding their own kind of proposals, and then they'll send it back. It happens like that. Then can I please specify? Is it going to be like a final list or no? It cannot be final. Of course, it has to be updated, upgraded, like any document. It is not like it's going to be this way or not the other way. It's going to be like a recommendation. It's going to be like suggested list. No, I don't quite understand. There'll be a new system which like is not in the list, for example, or a regulator will come up with initiative to supplement this list, and we'll just introduce something. So it's going to be expendable. It's a list of those objects to solve this challenge. I mean, let's say we have some kind of problem of identifying the category, like wide and deep. On the horizontal level, we introduce different objects because people have different ideas. Certain ERP system is part of the critical element, other is not. It's about manipulating category. 1, 2, 3, 0, whatever. Yeah, thank you. Let's do the final one. Yeah, could you please send the microphone right here? Yeah. Hey, my name is Catherine. I'm from the integrator company. On March 31st, President signed a decree that the federal information system, the original systems, they have to migrate to the GovStack platform. And this kind of GovStack or state tech will be providing security, info security. Does it mean that the regulation number 17 will be within the GovStack jurisdictions? Yes, most of them. See, we gotta move from the federal law number 149 and the governmental regulations about the GovStack 233, something like that. I may give you a wrong number. Instead of one entity of the operator of the information system, which is written in the federal law 148. Now we got one more entity. This is an operator of GovStack. And since our public system will be like a server part where things will be processed and the user part, we should have a delineation of responsibilities by owners of the user part and owners of the server part. Mr. Chernyshenko, Vice Prime Minister, gave us this kind of regulation based on the Decree 35, like would you have this kind of delineations, and we built the matrix of delineating responsibility, like what events, what has to be done based on this regulation. Decree number 17 will be added, but we have only one case of such an operator, but it's a systemic one, so we are going to be introducing some kind of changes. Does it mean that the service segment will be under the GovStack protection, but also the user segment? The integrator companies who have the license, they can provide this kind of services. Yeah, looks like right, but depending, if I understand the architecture right, it depends on the placement level of this user segment. Could be different. It could be like a full-size infrastructure, like a client service system, or it could be like a remote desktop, or you may have like a client-based technology. You would only have to double check, like, do you have like... I'm so sorry about that, because we're running out of time. Let's do the final question. We're going to finish up our discussion. Hi, I'm Sergey.
Вопрос про импортозамещение, то есть
I have a question about
вы
import
говорили, что достаточно
substitution.
большое количество
You guys were saying that
программных продуктов у нас
a lot of
есть отечественные,
software
но тем не менее
products we have the
последний
Russian-made
подход
equivalent.
к пониманию
And
импортозамещенных
anyway,
приложений
I'm trying to
поменялся. Если
understand
раньше говорилось про приклад,
is the
сейчас
approach
база данных, операционные
for
системы,
databases,
зачастую компоненты,
operation
из которых
systems, and
собирается
components
приложение. Вот
of
вопрос,
certain
планируется ли
applications.
где-то
Are you planning
фиксировать требования к
to
импортозамещенному
identify
приложению
certain
и
requirements for the application, substitute applications, and maybe also to reconsider the Russian registry of this software? Vladimir, over to you. I think it's like a double question because the Russian software registry, it did have solutions of different class, like there was a delineation, like internal one, and we are also processing it, reworking it, so you can find it, and you can find a database, operation system. Yes, we've done this work. I guess your question is that we have to understand, is it safe enough, right? Let's say we have a piece of software. It's a Russian one. It's in your registry, but it's working with a non-Russian database, and it's collected from the GitHub. It's working on Windows.
Правила. Мы все, кто
Yes, we have a rule. We have a rule, and
свои продукты, знают, что есть публичные правила, чему надо
you know that there are some public rules and what kind of documents you have to submit, and there is a commission making a final decision, and this commission, government commission, is carrying out inspections, you know, based on certain like complaints. Commission comes together, and 90-something%. It consists of guys from private companies. Yes, there are some public figures, but it's a market. It's a market, you know, considering certain violations, then issuing like warning. If this warning is not followed up, then you could be thrown out from the registry. It's a certain procedure. Okay, fine. I'm going to be very, very brief. And since the last year, speaking about the protected devices, we are not issuing a certificate. If your functioning environment could be at least one operational system, which is not part of the registry, we do have certain mechanisms of like issuing certificates, like for the databases. And my final question, I believe, is for Andrei. You guys have requirements for the safe remote work, and the MDD ministry wanted to issue a ban on remote work because many Russian IT guys have fled the country. Did you have any legislation about making a ban, imposing a ban on remote work in certain areas or not? Yeah, this idea is still being considered, and Mr. Volodin mentioned about that it has to be done. It has to be regulated. You know what? We've had different proposals, like to impose the taxes, raise the taxes on the individuals' revenues, and Ministry of Finances proposed to keep it as it is, and I support that. I mean, to push away, we don't have to push away people in mass. Yes, there are some developers who are making something. They're doing something in their respective locations, and they're very sensitive locations for Russia. And I guess one way or another we have to say goodbye to those guys, you know, to lay them off, or I don't know. Because I do not know. I don't know, you know. Are there any technology to protect those guys in their remote locations? We cannot guarantee such a developer that he will kind of download some kind of element of the product and will just pass it on to somebody else who will be from foreign intelligence. So probably Speaking of this kind of very critical and unique professionals, we probably have to either lure them back for them to come back to Russia with their high salaries, with some kind of guarantees, and like Maksud was pulling certain people out from the military enlistment offices. Yes, we are discussing it. And my suggestion was to build a separate cluster and just to give those like a super programmers like immunity, like a full immunity. So they're sitting and they're doing this work and no one can even approach them, They're sitting in Sochi, it's a sunshine, it's a sea, and they are working for the country, they're doing what the country needs, and basically like something like that. So far, we do not have some kind of legislative solution, but we are discussing it. And we have like all kind of proposals like, okay, they are traitors, let's get rid of them. But I'm saying, like, no, they're elite, and they have to feel like elite. They have to know that they're doing something very important for Russia, for the country, and they are being protected, they're being financially compensated. And these would be public guarantees that they are doing a very, very important work. Like we have the wide spectrum from very bad to very good, still discussing, still don't know what to do, but at least we're able to calm down those guys who offer to impose higher taxes on those guys who are working outside of Russia, like a 30% of their income, and they're sitting there and they're working there. But so far, we're able to hold it back, like 13 or 15% of income tax. In Vitaly, yes, I'll be very brief. Speaking about safety and security, I'm not speaking about economics and stuff. This problem, it has two definitions. The first is like organizational definitions. The second one is technical. Technical, how do we ensure that the guy is protected, like whether he's sitting outside of Russia or within Russia? It is not a big problem. But organizational, yeah, because if you are outside of Russia, you are under that other jurisdictions. You are subject to that kind of law, legislation, and stuff. So we need to think not about the technical problem, but about organizational problem. The technical problem is, yes, you have like a remote desktop, they have to be isolated, you have to control, give them the protected channel. Yeah, this can be done. But in terms of legislative situation, legislative framework, it is not those IT guys who are the most vulnerable, but those guys who have like a very high privilege and they have very high access point in the infrastructure. Those like developers with the system level of admins, they are the guys who are critical, because like otherwise these users sitting here, I mean from the technical point, right? Or he's sitting outside of this building, in Russia. It is not that important. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, dear colleagues. To you once again, among our panels, Andrei Svitsov, State Duma of Russia, Vitaly Lutikov of STEC Russia, and Vladimir Bengin, Ministry of Digital Development, NDD Russia. Thank you so much for your questions and for your attention. Our channel